Welcome to Activating Your Alchemist. And we are here with Gina Bria, who is going to take us through Module 1, explaining the power of water and how we can harness it to activate our inner alchemist. So welcome, Gina.
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak about water because it is so elemental and it is ready for us. We are being called by water in this time, in this age. So here's our response, our song back to water and receiving what water has to bring to us. And I'd like to start this conversation by talking about what is water. It's so elemental, right? But there has been some extraordinary new information coming out of the sciences about what water is. And if we have this conversation, then we can begin to open up a completely new understanding of not only water, but ourselves. So I want to share coming out of the science world. And of course, as an anthropologist, this science is matching up with time immemorial versions of water, thinking about water, and the way our culture, our industrial, sterilized, version of life and nature has really reduced a very reductionist view of water as an observable phenomena. But what I want to, so we're matching old views of water with new science about water. And the reason I want to bring the new science in and not just talk about water from antiquity is because this new science is a new way to say things, which then breaks open our consciousness, our imaginary vision to include a new way of thinking about water. So in our world and our culture now, we teach in all our schools that water has three phases. There's the vapor, there's the liquid, and there's the ice. And that is a deeply incomplete view of what water is. It's so incomplete that the phases of water, we don't really have any explanation for how liquid gets to ice. We're just like, oh, well, then that happens. So out of this science world, due to the work of many interesting scientists who've been, like shoved to the fringe of their departments and of their collaborators who've now come to a profound consensus that, and particularly around the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack, that there is a phase of water between ice and between a liquid. So between liquid and ice, there's a whole nother stretch of the way the water molecules organize themselves. So vaporous is, of course, very loose molecular connection. Liquid, it becomes more material, more dense. We can put our hands in liquid, and then we move to this amazing state between liquid and ice. And this state of water is very important for us to understand. It's almost like a plasma state. It's almost like a jelly-like state, and it goes from liquid, so it just starts getting denser. The molecules start getting closer and closer to each other until this water becomes quite concentrated. And this is called there's many names because each of the scientists who are looking at it all have different names for it. So it's either ordered water, coherent water, condensed water, easy water, structured water, liquid crystalline water, but it's really all talking about this stage. Now this stage is got its own little subcategories. So but it starts when the water molecules get close enough together that they start sharing electrical charge and electrical digital information with each other, these molecules. Now, why is this important? Why do we want to start this conversation helping you understand that there is a gel phase or a plasma phase of water that we weren't paying attention to? It's because that is the kind of water found inside living cells. It's not liquid inside our cell structure. In fact, the buoyancy of the cell, the reason the cell looks like a little balloon or a little blob of gel is because that's what it is. It's gel water. It's plasma-like water. And therefore, that allows us to talk about water in a new way, which means that the condensed jelly-like quality of water is what cells are made out of, and ultimately what we are made out of. And the conversation around water and hydration being just liquid you throw in there and somehow it magically appears, you become, liver and bones. And what I want to help you understand is that tissue, cells are building tissue. We are made of tissue, this gel-like tissue, and therefore we are far more water than we ever dreamed. We are entirely tissue and entirely made of water. Like, wow.
And I raised my hand. So now I have a question about all of that. Yes. So the reason we're going down the path of this particular course with water is because we are primarily water, and we want to talk about this fourth phase, water, and a couple words that you said, coherent water, and I really want people to realize the importance of this phase and what the electrical current and the vibration and how we can activate that, and what we're doing that's not supporting it as well, that we may not even be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we're dehydrated, then now that has a new meaning. It helps bring to light for us why hydration is this huge category of availability to us for health, for consciousness, for reality, for creating new realities that we weren't aware of before. So if you understand that your entire body is a package of water, of vibrating water, that your cells are little packages of buoyant water, and that they're talking to each other, they're electrically connected and they are digitally connected. They're sending messages to each other. And if you know about, a typical a sonogram, if you've ever gone in for a sonogram and they put that gel on you, and they do that because gel form conducts electricity at a much more efficient rate. In fact, it's a superconductor. It's an instant conductor. So now we have a way to understand how our body, our cells, our organs, our whole entire system communicates to each other. It's because every cell is so much a water conductor that the coherency of the orchestration of and the delivery and the receiving of all signaling is all happening because of that state of water we're talking about. So that state of water is what organizes and orchestrates us enough that we become a coherent whole being. And the joy in this conversation is we haven't activated that because we weren't aware of it. I mean, we may have stumbled into it in our own life and our own sense of coherency and joy, but to actually have knowledge and ways to become living at an optimal, much higher level. It's amazing.
I'm thinking about it. What it's doing is activating and up-leveling all of the things that we do in our daily lives to stay metaphysically fit, whether that is meditation, exercise, and movement, or pretty much anything. It's just adding that fine-tuning and up-leveling is what I'm hearing.
Right. Yes, because everybody comes to me and they want to know, how much should I drink? This is just tell me what I should drink and then we're done. Not understanding that we're talking about the complete being that you are. And so, and dehydration as a culture is what the environment we're living. That's the aquarium we're in. I want you to think about an aquarium that hasn't been cleaned and has slowly evaporated water off the top, and you see all that like scum around the glass, and you see the fish struggling, and the plants are, if you have plants in your aquarium, that whole system is incoherent. It's a mess. And that is where we start in our culture because of the kind of environments we've built and the experiences of stresses and work, the dispersal of families, the huge use of pharmacology, the bad food, just name it. the commute in the cars, the cell phones, the screens, all of those things are making our aquarium evaporate our hydration, and we're looking pretty scummy. Okay, so what what would happen if we actually got that water level back up again? And this is the difference between just talking about how much water do I throw in me to what if the level of hydration allows me to access a whole nother quality of life in which things begin to clean up and flow, and the flourishing that can now happen and the new life that can come out of that. I'm talking about that as the inside of your body. Yeah.
I want everyone to know, as this is the first of many modules we have. So in this module, I'm loving that you're talking about all these things, because the dehydration and bringing flow and fluidity back into our lives, we're going to be covering different action steps to take to bring that flow back in. So I'm very excited. And then in terms of what we're going to talk about here a bit more, what you were sharing made me think about, I wrote it down here, adding that plumpness and more water it's really strangely to me, as we become, if I'm hearing this correctly, if we're becoming more hydrated beings, just our physical beings, that we have more buoyancy. And I wrote emotional buoyancy, and we can handle stressors in our lives and stay in balance. Am I on the right track?
Yes, this is where we want the conversation to go, because we want to help people realize, if all my tissue is ultimately this plasma like water, and you can feel it, just squeeze your arm. You're that. You're a bunch of cells that are buoyant, that are plump, that are pushed together and moving together and communicating together, whether they're a liver cell or a brain cell or your heart, all your heart cells. All of those we know are absolutely delivering electrical signaling, right? So now if I can help you realize, holy cow, I am a walking plasma being. I am a being made of this plasma water. In fact, I am a water being. And we're not used to thinking of ourselves that way, because we think we're land animals, but we're water beings on land. This is Emily Conrad would have spoken about that. These are thoughts that are coming from very ancient traditions and matching up with new ways of new consciousness of thinking. So if we are literally, okay, so I want the picture would be, you're a jellyfish with bones stuck in you so you can stomp around on land and exploit this environment intelligently. Okay, so now I have a picture for you of how much you are water, and why supporting yourself as a water being, which we hadn't thought about ourselves before, makes a complete difference in how you move about and flow through the world that you're perceiving. So if you're thinking of yourself as a fish, moving through the environment, truly a land environment and an air environment, but you're still very fishy.
I love that.
Very jelly, right? You even get that the fluidity and the resilience and the ability to move through things emotionally has a wholly different context than the kind of, stiff, rigid way that we have to solve things, that we have to worry about things, that we have to fix this, instead of just the, oh my gosh, I can just flow through this because I have these qualities that I haven't yet learned to step into and exploit. It's almost, Darcie, like moving from, we have stages of development as a human being coming in. We first of all, we arrive in amniotic fluid, big clue, first clue. This amniotic fluid, then, it's inside of us, it folds us. And as we are born, now we have these stages of development to accomplish, whether that's learning to walk, to hold our neck and head up, to actually get up, to attend to walking. Then we go through all of these stages of development from 4 to 7 to a teenager to our reproductive maturity, then we go on with the rest of our life, not realizing that we still have developmental stages to accomplish that are extraordinary. We're leaving those on the table because we didn't know we had these next stages, which is to come into ourselves as these buoyant, resilient, creative beings, which can raise ourselves to a new level of awareness and perception.
And it starts with this basic yet powerful piece that I know you teach so well, which is ways that we can hydrate. And so I would love for you to share this piece, because like I said, it's so foundational to everything we're going to do in this course going forward. It all starts with this physical jellyfish with bones.
And it's electrifying. It's literally all the time. There's all this electricity going on inside of us, and if we're broadcasting or receiving. So we really want to talk about enhancing your capacity to receive and to broadcast back and forth. And
tuning that, right? Yeah. So I would love for you to take us through. I know you have some really powerful yet super easy ways that we can hydrate ourselves. And let's start with what you said earlier, which is people saying, how much water do I need to drink? So that's the old way. That's the world is flat. Now we realize the world is round. And I would love for you to share a little bit more about that, and then action steps that people can take.
Yes. And why we had this conversation to begin with is otherwise I'm just assigning you tasks.
Right.
Until you understand that conceptually you are a complete water being, and that your day involves in keeping yourself, aquarium high, beautifully hydrated, that everything depends on that. Until you understand that, all I'm doing is assigning you a task. 8 glasses a day.
Right.
And this won't bring you joy. It's just an additional thing you got to do. And people experience it as a burden. And in addition to the conversation of the prescription, 8 glasses a day, guzzle, 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 there's a lack of understanding in that prescription, one, that we're all, vitally different, and that that hydration has to stick in you. It can't just flood through you. So one of the most important strategies that is so simple is helping you absorb the amount of water you will be drinking, whatever that liquid form comes in, whether it's teas, it doesn't have to be just water, is understanding that that you need to partner it with fibers that help that actually stay in your body. And that's why food becomes a source of hydration that doesn't get on the table enough. And when we understand that when you eat an apple or a pear, you're not only getting all the liquid that's filled with nutrients and electrolytes in that package, you're getting the fibers which help time release over time, this beautiful drip irrigation system. And that allows you to be hydrated over a much longer period of time than just keep tossing water in there. We've got to get out of that idea. So a high plant diet doesn't have to be only plants, but a high plant diet where you're bringing in a lot of these beautiful fresh fruits and vegetables. I mean, leafy greens are 96 to 98% water. It's a ridiculous amount. We just never think of water as green as well as blue. We're just looking for it in liquid form. And when we find out we can actually ingest it in plasma form, which is what the living cells of the fruits and vegetables are, then we're getting a different access, far more effective, far more joyful. Now I get to eat my hydration, and that is really a joy. That's a different kind of engagement with how I get myself hydrated. So I
have a quick question, or a quick aha, because I've heard you talk about eating your hydration, and I'm like, I don't understand. But what you said is that it's the living cells in the plant that have the 4th phase water, the gel-like. Because I'm like, I'm not tasting that particular consistency when I'm eating
Yes. So it doesn't
an
have to.
apple.
Well, aloe will really look like the
Yeah,
Jello.
I said apple.
Right, but
Yes, aloe. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're also that's also the liquid crystalline state, or the it can be still juicy, for these electrons, the water molecules, to start sharing their and generating electricity. They only have to get to almost a state it's only about 10% more viscous than actual liquid.
Okay, that's good to know, because I had a complete
Right.
gel,
You're
like
looking for the
you said,
gel,
like
like where's
aloe.
the gel?
Yeah.
If you look in a cucumber and you see the seeds surrounded by that gel, that's a more concentrated form. But the electron sharing starts with something that actually still looks like water, but it's got a silkier. There's a quality you can feel it. Something as simple as adding some sea salt to your water bottle.
Why is that?
That is a fabulous strategy for getting better hydrated. If you're doing a lot of drinking, you want to put a little sea salt in that, because in your water bottle or in your glass, because the sea salt carries electrical charge as well. It's full of electrolytes and minerals. Minerals are really electrolytes are simply electrolytes. Minerals are when they touch water, they release their electricity. That's the moment. And so when you put that salt in the water, suddenly electrical charge happens. So now you're drinking something really vital and full of electricity. Whereas when you didn't have that water that in it, you don't have that same experience going on. Now your body has to go and fix that water when you drink it. So it's spending all that energy trying to turn that water, it's sending its own minerals that's already are inside of you to go fix that water. So you're just skipping a whole effortful body process just by putting a little salt in your water. And you'll find that you don't need to drink as much, because the water you're having is what water is now, what it's supposed to do, which is to conduct these electrical signals.
That's just fascinating. And then when you were talking about the plants, and we talk about the importance of a plant-based diet.
Yes.
This is the part of that I didn't appreciate, which is that from the nutritional perspective, but also from a water perspective and a hydration perspective, that's not being talked about.
Right. So that the plants, all plants, have already made the transition, just like we do in our body. When we're living and growing, we're helping to change that water into the more plasma-like, because we're busy making tissues, right? So when a plant grows, it's doing the exact same thing. It's drawing down electrical force from the sun and minerals from the soils, putting those together. What does it become? Tissue, plant tissue. Then we eat that, we're getting the benefit of that transference that has already happened. We're literally eating sun and minerals, and all done through the super sexy water molecules, who just, that's their
super
job.
Sexy water molecules. I love
That's
it.
what they're made to do. They're like, give me this, give me that, watch my alchemy, right? So we want to do that for ourselves. So eating a lot of plants allows this kind of water to hydrate you, which is how nature and plants, and that's how animals and most groups, hunter-gatherer groups, hydrated themselves throughout all. They do not carry water bottles. They're not running around doing it.
I think that's a really important piece to explain, because your entire career has been around studying this. And yes, we feel you're right. If we all carry around water bottles, but that's not how it was done for forever.
Well, when the aliens from the alien anthropologists come from outer space, and they look at us, and they're going to go, what's that about? When did that happen? And I do really want to encourage people to get more informed about what's going on with water coming out of our pipes and going into the water bottles that those are just those water molecules, because of the good intentions to clean up water and sterilize it. We didn't know we were blasting apart the molecules and disorganizing them so that they couldn't do the work that they do. And the way water molecules get back, the way nature gets water molecules to do its work and get into this electrical state is by swirling it. So you see, if you look at the Mississippi Delta, that's just water doing its thing to get itself all electrical again after it's, picked up contaminants and waste. This is how nature does water. It's the same principle in our body, exactly same principle. And the further thing about getting water out of plants is that every plant carries its own frequency, its own information that it wants to give you. So when you are eating a broad variety of plants, not only are you getting the hydration from them, and I want you to transfer the idea of nutrition to what it really is, which is information. So when you eat basil, you're getting basil information, and that informs your whole system. Everything that basil can do for you is now available to you because of you ingesting it, because of the water molecule. So I know. Does it make you happy? Like, yes,
it really
no.
does. It really does. No, well, it instead of it's this is something I have to do, right? And you talked about how our water has lost its structure, right?
Yeah.
And good intentions, but a lot of us have stripped down water. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned salt is a way to bring some what do we call it back in? Remineralizes.
It's doing so much work at once, and this is what's hard to wrap around. So it's multifaceted. Not only is it adding minerals back in, it's adding information back in, it's allowing the vibrations to more effectively pass like a sonogram, but it's also water in this state, when it touches waste or contaminants, goes, oh, you are a problem, I'm just going to disassemble you. When water has enough electrical charge, it can literally neutralize toxins.
Yeah, that's a hard one for people to wrap their brains around. If you're structuring your water, you can really protect yourself from quite a bit that's in the water.
Right. And if you can't quite wrap your head around the fact that water can do that without any help, you can add then the materials that you do know that help. For example, having a mushroom diet where you include mushrooms in your life. And I love to use powdered mushrooms. Actually every day I have a mixed powders. So you can buy like packs that are 5 different mushrooms in one package. A powdered, and that goes in my smoothie. I never have a day where I don't include mushroom information in my life, as wide a variety as I can, because I know that the package together of water and mushrooms are highly decontaminating. That is going to help me face what we've done in our culture in so many different assaults or insults on us, to help me continue to flourish and swim through my industrial clogged life. And being on the screen all the time, all the things that I have to do because I want to get out there and be alive in the world I've been planted in. And these are ways to do it using hydration.
And there's also, you talk about power couples, like powering more than one thing together.
Right.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm glad, because I would love to return to the point of smoothies in my life and why I use a blender and why I use a blender almost every day. And when I don't use it, I really feel it. I know I'm not that fish. I'm a little bit more like a worm. So smoothies or using a blender, actually, I've done an anthropology of blending, and I really carried it all the way back to the mortar and pestle. And these are such antique traditions and powerful medicine that when we grind up food and we put foods together and grind them up, there's a whole new synergy that happens. And those foods are talking to each other and creating new levels of information coming into the body that they didn't have separately. So blenders are like a brilliant modern shortcut to a high plant diet with high quality ingredients that you can just throw in the morning and carry that throughout your day. The kind of smoothies that I would make would be something like as simple as basil. I love basil. I love the smell. I love the fragrance. It resonates with me. I love that plant. I kiss it before I throw it in the mouth.
I think that's a really sweet thing. I know you shared that with me before. That you sort of honor and love on the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
That's a from a vibrational standpoint, instead of just like, I have to make my smoothie, I'm in a hurry.
Right.
And really taking a moment and literally kissing it changes the vibration of what's going on as well there.
Right. It's not my task. This is now, okay, this is my point where I'm having my life. I'm having my joyful life. And so basil, I maybe make a base of, I always do like 3 or 4 cups of greens, and they're usually mixed because I want that variety, right? So mixed greens, a couple of basil, like 5, 6, 7 basil leaves, a couple of parsley stems, maybe 2 or 3. If I have those, if I don't, then I just go with, I pour in I would love with that recipe, I would put in coconut milk and maybe just a quarter of a can and some water. And then I would throw in some blackberries.
You do know that I'm going to ask you to give me a couple of your favorite smoothie recipes. So
oh my God. I just love the coconut milk basil blackberry is just weird.
Okay.
I also like, just for women, I love rose jam. It's coming out of the Fertile Crescent tradition. So women and roses and the use of high quality jams made of rose petals. They are so hydrating. It's insane. And they're, of course, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, you just name it. What roses were raised for their medicine first. That was the first recognition. And so, something like a cherry rose smoothie. Come on. Who could not love that, right? That's a joy. And that, the more you make smoothies, the more clever recipes you come up with, because you're being informed, like the basil's going inside you and going, you could add a little more, something to this, ginger, so you're there receiving and thinking up new things. These aren't thoughts that come from nowhere. These are secret conversations that are happening with life. And this is what being hydrated does. We get in those conversations because the water molecule allows that information, literally frequency information. So it's like you're hearing a quiet song that is, allowing, I'm sorry, this conversation is getting so esoteric.
It's supposed to. It's all good. No, and to follow that, I know, we have talked about the fantastic fungi movie, and is it the mycelium? Am I saying
mycelium? Right.
Mycelium.
Right.
Can you talk, so we're talking about helping this particular body, whoever's watching this, right? And how they can become more hydrated. So to your point, there's frequency, you're going to get downloads, it's going to be beautiful, but we're all connected through that. Can you talk a little bit about that piece?
I will make sure that we include a slide of what water in the body actually looks like, so you can see how much tissue you're made of, and you can also see these tissues. There's the organ tissue, but then there's all the connective tissue. This connective tissue is we'll put 2 slides side by side so you can see what water looks like in the body. And oh my God, a close-up of it and a close-up of what the mycelium looks like under the ground. You cannot tell them apart. You're like, wait, which one is the water and which one is the actual fantastic network underneath the entire soil, which allows all trees to tell the bugs and the worms and the other trees. And there's some little oxilla growing at the base of the pine tree. We just send a couple messages that way. They are all there to support and feed each other. And this is their joy. Their joy is, I got this, I'm going to send some to you.
Right.
I'm getting small here. I'm getting dried up, and the help arrives.
Well, and we as human beings have that ability as well. To your point, we haven't tapped into it until now, the world is flat, not round. And now we're realizing, oh, we are interconnected in that vibrational way where we can actually help other humans like that.
Because we don't have that because we're not hydrated.
Right.
We're on the dehydrated side. We're on the needing versus giving side. And we are just like soil and land. If it's, or plants, they wilt. If we don't have enough of that water, then it's going to diminish our capacity to rejoice in each other's presence, to be able to give and receive, to help and receive help, and just be in that soil, knowing that that's the cycle of life that's there for me. Wow. Now I probably scared people about how much they need water.
No, I feel just the opposite. Like I have a true understanding of it, and I want to get hydrated so that I can raise my frequency, not so much this physical body, but what's possible. What am I going to ping to when I am, and what's possible through this very interesting thing, which seems so pedestrian, which is hydration, but it's not. It's magical. And there's so many layers you just shared with us.
Yes. So, we clinically know that being dehydrated by 2%, just 2% dehydration, we can track measuring cognitive loss. That's the news that goes out to the world, right? You're dehydrated, it's terrible. We don't have the conversation of what it would be like if we actually got that 2% back and superseded it, that when we get into these coherent states, what we're capable of is far beyond what we've been able to experience. It's a new level of development, right? It's after teenage, after, maturity. We're not just going to die. That's not like the transition. There's a whole stage in there of glory and aliveness and vitality and creativity and perception. So I really want to stay with this idea, because people talk about consciousness all the time, and we don't. It's like, well, consciousness is what? What I just want to help people that sometimes they get to the word awareness. I want to take it to one more step and talk about perception, because being well hydrated means you are more capable of perceiving all of life that's out there. And this raises you to a different level of being in the world, so that what you're able to collect from being what you're able to receive from being a living creature is at a completely different level. And I think this is the true answer to all the stresses that are completely assaulting us at all times. When you are in that kind of a day and you're able to turn and perceive a flower that's more yellow than you've ever seen. It's more vivid. It's looking at you. It's singing to you. I got you. I'm here. I'm here to be with you right now. We were born together, and I'm here for you now.
So true. So true.
Level of living.
And so
I'm all excited now.
Yeah, no, this is great. And we will come on from time to time and do Q&As with you all to talk more about this, because Gina is the hydration expert. So there are a couple ways, and we will include them in this module, different ways to hydrate, whether it's what you put in your water. We talked about smoothies. We talked about actually adding, did you say fiber? I think.
Yeah. So, that recipe I gave you, throw a pear in there and you have a whole nother level of fiber, which is holding on to all that information, and it has it long enough that it can actually send it to places in the body that's needed. The other part I think really want to mention here is how important getting sunlight is, because we live indoors. We're a culture that lives indoors. And so begin to explore what tolerance you have for sunlight. I'm at least 15 minutes. And then the modern brilliance hack, if you can't get out in the sun, is to get infrared in your life. That particular part of the spectrum is what allows the water molecules to start sharing electrons. And this is based on the work of Dr. Pollack, who actually did all the demonstration experiments to show that's true.
And
So
can we include some of that in this module as well? Some
yes.
of the links to the research if people want to learn
Oh,
more about
absolutely.
that. Okay,
You
great.
should know the science, and even if you know it in a cursory way, like just read the abstract so that you get the concepts and you go, okay, I'm an intelligent knowing. First of all, your brain is capable of knowing all the science necessary on the planet.
I know you say that, you know.
Skip it. You can skip the having to put it through the sieve of your rational mind and just receive receive it as a gentle gift.
Got it. And a great example that Joe Dispenza shares about why it's important to understand the science behind the meditation is he talks about wine, and somebody can just drink wine. But then when you go to the vineyard and you learn about the grapes and you know, how they were fermented and the entire process, when you have that glass of wine, it is entering you very differently than without having that knowledge. So you're talking about it from the same way here. So
well,
go into the Gerald Pollack vineyard.
I love it. And what you just identified is something so important, which is everywhere you look is miraculous. There are more depths for you to discover. It doesn't pick anything. It could be grapes. It could be beautiful fabrics. It could be the silkworm and what it does. It could be, nutrition. It could be dance. Wherever you look, there is more to collect and have. And we're leaving it all on the table by virtue of being dehydrated. So
that's so true. I didn't want to also forget that there are actual structured water devices that you can use in your home. And we will also include some more information about those as well, since we are city dwelling folks.
And we want to help clean up water, right? This is our
talk a minute about that as well, because I think it's really important for people to understand the agricultural aspect of this as well.
Right. Great. So, our reverence for water, once it becomes available to us, then we look around and go, what else do I need to be helping with? How can I help clean up water? For me, that aha moment came when I realized that literally our Mother Earth is dehydrated. That's what farming has done. That's the way we've treated, our world, unfortunately, with asphalt streets everywhere and farming, and just wherever you look, we've interrupted the hydrological absorption state of soils. So getting water back to the soils and getting this kind of water, this plasma-like water that can then rehydrate all those secret microbes and worms and everything that's under that soil, that mycelium, in a way that it can start doing its recovery work, decontaminating the soils from all the chemicals we've thrown on it, the pesticide. All of that, to me, is a very worthy cause. So that's where I really try to put my other energies.
What I really like that you shared is it's really providing spinny funnels, and that in one season you can bring the soil back to life.
Amazing, right? We're so much closer to climate recovery than we think. And it's all going to be based on the soils getting hydrated. And so our work is just getting spin funnels. So I was talking about spin and how the delta goes through. These very simple, they're just literally funnels that have marbles inside that allow water to do its spin. By the time they come out the end, we're hydrating that soil with a completely different quality of water. So understanding that we've been doing all our growing with broken up molecules, and now we're just putting them back together. It's
magic.
It's magic.
It does feel like a little bit like magic. One other magic thing I wrote down here that I would love for you to talk to is even taking your water bottle and putting a word, love, thank you. Like, you are then sending a different energy into that water that you're drinking.
Amen, sister. I know it can be, you know, a hallmark idea, like, oh, come on. But, you know, when I have my glass of water in the morning, which you drink at room temperature, I always put a little salt or a squeeze of lemon or apple cider vinegar or a bag of tea. I mean, all of these things are starting this cohesion of the water. I just put it against my heart like this, you know, I just say thank you. And I'm grateful. And I know we're having a conversation, and I'm sending something so genuine and thankful. And again, in the ancient traditions, in the wisdom traditions, in other cultures, they had this skill. They understood the power of their thoughts and the thoughts that other things have. So they will talk about plants as singing, like, I heard the song of the this, and I heard the song of the that. We are unskilled at that in this culture. And so we're just going to get that back.
And it feels, like you said, a little woo, a little esoteric, but science is coming along. I mean, if you look at Emoto's work, you can change, you can change the shape, making these beautiful shapes. Can you talk a moment to that as we wrap up here? Because we could talk about this all day long.
Well, Emoto took stationary pictures of ice crystals with vibrations played to them. That work is not done. It's not over. It is now being explored through extraordinary new experiments, including the work of John Stewart Reed, who now is able to take videos of water changing phases based on music being played to it. So we now have it on screen, and I'll make sure we have a link to those experiments, because they are beautiful. And he in the particular one that he just did, the experiment that he just did, you actually see vibrational imprints on the blood cell. You can actually see it change and be imprinted upon that. So, you know, blood is just red water, right? We have red water, we have green water with all the water and plants. Well, we have brown water with all the mycelium under the. I'm just trying to help you realize we aren't in water scarcity. We're in water abundance. We just haven't known how to look at it differently. And we ourselves are abundant water beings. And that's where we want to take our next level of development to.
I love it. So I think everyone, you'll understand why this is where we want to start everyone off. We're going to be providing numerous ways to hydrate yourself better. And then we'll see what happens from there. Thanks, Gina.
It's been a pleasure to alert us to how miraculous we really are.